Welcome to Give Your Wall Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom. Well, this is going to be a really exciting episode. On every shoot of Give Your Wall Some Soul, I have my sock monkey with me. And today we're actually going to do a painting of the sock monkey with a duck friend. And this is probably going to be a two-parter. I don't know that we're going to get him done in one shot, but I'm going to see what we can do. Last time on Give Your Wall Some Soul, we painted the chaps. And I wanted you guys to get a chance to see what they look like when they were done. We did a lot of glazing. I got it to a good first statement, so you could kind of tell what it is. But I took it back to the studio and did a series of glazes over the entire painting to get it to a finished state. So what's really neat about these chaps and how I'm going to relate that to the sock monkey is that normally you just see things to get to the first stage. And what we're going to do with this sock monkey painting is you'll be able to see what I did in between the initial chaps when we did the painting in the last show, and how they got to this state. So it'll make a little more sense. As far as the subject matter of the painting and the sock monkey, when I first started painting, I really tried to do serious subjects and serious paintings. And you know what? You just can't you can't take yourself that seriously when you're painting a sock monkey. But the funny thing is about this is that the colors and how I'm going to, you'll see the reference photo later in the show. But I'm changing the colors. They're actually inspired by a Vermeer painting, Lady in the Red Hat. And so it's interesting that something so serious like an old master painting has inspired this sock monkey painting. Now, the sock monkey is also another departure from what we've done in the past too. I tend to paint single objects, and we're going to talk about relationships today. Talk about relationships in space and form. There's actually a sock monkey and a duck, so there are two objects, and you'll see how that goes. The duck is an old toy that I found in the attic from when I was a kid, and he's seen better days, but he makes me happy, so I think this is going to be a fun painting. All right, well, I'm going to start with the background. And the first departure from the reference photo is that when I spent a whole day setting up the next series of paintings that I'm going to do. So the setup time for this painting, I would say maybe an hour or two. I basically played house with the lighting, with the subjects, so that I could get just the right setup and get a good composition. I also did that with a number of other, I had flowers, I had other things that I was working with, and so the setup takes a lot of time before you ever get it even drawn on the canvas. So a whole day basically to get that to where I wanted it. So now that when you see that we're painting in maybe a 2-hour session, this TV show and the next series, but what you don't see is the hours of preparation to get it to this stage. So anyway, I'm going to get started. The first departure is that it's got a brown background, and that was fine. It's very harmonious. It looks good for the day I set it up. But this is a different day, and I want a different color. So I'm going to actually have a blue draped background, straight ultramarine blue. It's going to be a little too harsh for that, so I'm going to throw in its complement, some cad yellow deep, and gray it down a little bit. There, that'll be a nice, rich, dark, shadowy color, almost black, but when I mix it with the medium, almost green black. When I mix it with the medium and thin it out, you'll see some of the blue. So I'm going to scrub that in the background. I was tempted to start with the duck because that's something new and exciting. I haven't painted him yet. Don't remember his name. Oh, that's a nice neutral dark. I like where that's hitting. It's not dead center. And I'm just going to kind of outline this little area. Yeah, that's a nice rich blue. On the next show, I'll bring in a series several sock monkey paintings so you can see the evolution of this guy. I love in Vermeer how Vermeer mixes the blue-yellow combinations with bits of red. So nice primary colors that make it really sing, but he uses them in a tasteful way so they're not screaming at you. There's a time to scream, but this isn't it. In the background, I really want this to recede. Okay, that's nice. I'm going to mix a lighter color, not as light as it shows in the reference photo, but a nice light blue. I think I'm going to need some more paint already. Again, I'm kneading the tube so that it's a brand new tube, and I don't want all the oil to come out and have no pigment. It's kind of like stirring a new can of paint. Okay. And I'm going to take some of the straight ultramarine blue, move it over here. I'm going to still stick some of this gray mixture in it because I don't want it too bright. Now that's still dark. I can dull this by adding white, and I can also make it lighter at the same time, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a little bit first, see what happens. That might be a little bit too bright. Now I could put it down on the canvas and check, or I could just hold my knife here. It's too dark and it's too bright. I'm going to add more white. A lot of white. Now I need to move this pile over because if I just add white to this, I'd have to add the whole tube before it got light enough. So I'm going to move some of this over here and just pretend like it's not there, not use it. I'm going to take all of this white, mix that in. Yeah, that's a nice neutral light color. That'll work well. This poor duck, I don't know if you saw the duck on the reference photo, but he was in pretty bad shape. I had to give him some dust had gotten in the box. I had to give him a shampoo before we brought him here today. And I was afraid to comb his hair. Okay, that's good. That's a nice Vermeer neutral. The interesting thing about doing this is a lot of my paintings are single subjects and they're very warm. So not only are we going to have relationships with two individual pieces of the still life, but we're going to have more color relationships because it's going to be predominantly warm painting, but this is going to be more about color relationships than some of my other paintings. It will have a lot of cool accents. The trick will be not to make it too half and half, warm and cool. I've got to pick one, but you know the reds always take over once I start painting, so I'm not too worried about that. I ran into somebody, or I met somebody at a function, and she'd never seen my work before, and said she loved paintings and she loved art and loved really cool colors, and wasn't into red. And I thought, well, no way you're going to like any of my work. I didn't say that though. But you know, things that are pleasing to my eye are going to, you know, it's all a matter of taste and what you like, and things that actually hurt my soul are going to, you know, other people are just going to love. So that's what's nice. There's a painting for everyone. That's what Michael, my old teacher, used to tell me. There's a painting for everyone. Yeah, this is a good blue. Now this sock monkey's gone through a lot of evolutions. They still make them nowadays, but they're not as good. And the reason they're not as good is the lips. The lips of the sock monkey. If you look at socks from the olden days, they have these great shaped lips on the heel. And the newer sock monkeys, they don't have the lips. I'll bring one in next time so you can see. They just don't do it. Okay, I'm going to throw in a little bit of dark and actually mix some of this so it's not quite so boring. The other thing that I'm doing differently this time is that I'm going to be doing more blending, more direct painting. The chaps, the first statement was very direct. And what I mean is you mix, you blend, you do it all in one shot. And but then later I did this series of glazing, which is indirect painting. I'm hoping today to do a fairly direct painting, but we'll just see what happens. There's some things that I'm going to change. You know, as much time as I spent setting these up just the way I wanted them, I'm still going to change some things compositionally when I start to paint. And I'll show you when I get to that. Okay, so that's a kind of a soft transition. In the reference photo, there are bottles and a teapot and all kinds of other things mixed in there. And I just think that's too distracting, although the shapes were not such a bad idea. So how I'm going to get around that, if you get a chance to look at the reference photo, there are a couple bottles, and those shapes were good to help break up the painting. But I don't want to put those in, but I want to keep the shapes. So I'm going to do that with paint and just pretend like those shapes are here with more of a shadow kind of thing. I mean, that's what's nice about painting. You get to pretend. You don't like the way it's set up, change it. And just because you drew it on there doesn't mean you have to keep it. Okay, I like that. Let's see, we'll keep it really dark so that these guys don't look like they're floating. You can also add black to your blue to get a neutral. But just and I don't use it. It's not like black is bad. It's that our teacher really wanted us to get some rich neutrals when I took from him, and so as long as he would say, as long as you don't use it as a crutch and you use it to make a nice neutral, that's okay. But if you're just trying to make something lighter or darker, that's not a good thing, because it really is more of a case of, or it's more interesting if you make it a case of more of a temperature thing rather than a value issue. And what I mean by that is light or dark. It may not always be as interesting as if you had the warm or cool elements. Okay, so that's a good base background there. I'm going to blend that out. And normally I wouldn't necessarily blend right away, but it's warm in the studio today, and it will get kind of gummy. So I'm going to blend right away. So your temperature really affects what you're doing. This is going to be a lot softer and nicer, kinder, gentler background. I'm going to start with the light first, so I'm not really contaminating that. Going into the monkey shape, because again, we've talked about this. I talk about this all the time. You don't want strokes that run away, disappear. You want everything to blend. I'm concerned about the edges, but I'm going to, where the monkey hits the background, but I'm going to deal with that later on in the painting. Yeah, I can feel this already getting gummy. Part of this is because I use the medium, and part of it because it is very warm in here. So climate issues are things that you deal with in your own studio as well. And you know what, this little blending will make some mysterious things. You won't even know what's going on back here. I'm going to break up that shape. That's boring. Too uniform. And you know what? That doesn't need to be that harsh either. Okay, so this has just a little bit of too much of, I'm just going to take the dirty brush as I'm blending and move it over here so that it's not boring, not the same color everywhere. I may throw in some more color later, but I really want to get this covered, and I want Les to have a first statement before we leave tonight. That's my goal. I always have a goal when I'm painting. Whether it happens or not is something else, but I always have one in mind. Need to mix some more of the dark color. I had them sitting on a black, it was probably a black folder. And in the reference photo, you'll also notice reflections and all kinds of stuff going on. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. This is more about these objects. Need to wipe my knife. Add a little cad yellow deep again to gray it down. Maybe even a little cad red light. Because I didn't want the same color everywhere. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so he's got a little ribbon there. Let's see what's going on here. This is dark around his tail. My sock monkey doesn't have a name. I've always called him Sock Monkey. And not sure I want to tell you how old my duck is. I can't remember what his name was. All I know is he made me happy when I saw him. Makes you start to think when your toys are 40 years old. One of the few things I have left from back then. Okay. I know that this area can't be the same color all over, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. So this is how it really works. I know it can't be the same color all over. I think I'm going to put a darker, bluer space down there, and so that's what I'm going to do. We'll see what happens, and if I don't like it, I'm going to change it. Got to lift this up so I can paint the bottom. I know one of the most boring parts is watching somebody, it's almost like watching paint dry, watching somebody put in the background. So I'm not going to focus on this that much. But I do want to cover the canvas. I think just to make it interesting and make it have a little bit of depth, I'll just throw some lighter blue in here. But you know what? Let me show you one of the things that I do that's bad, that you really shouldn't do at home. I lift the canvas and put it on the edge of the easel so that I can paint the bottom. Right? Then I get distracted and decide I'm going to go in another area, and I start beating on the canvas in another area, but it's not secure back in the easel. Well, if you're not careful, and this is what I was just about to do, you start beating on it, because that's what's happening when you're painting, it ends up on the floor and all over you. So, so anyway, I'm going to put it back inside, but first I should finish what I was doing before then. Finish painting down here. Then put it back. so that I don't drop it. There. But I can't tell you how many times at home it's all over me, it's all over the carpet. Especially in my early morning painting sessions before I've had much coffee. I like to say, think that's the only time it happens, but no, it happens all the time. Yeah, I need to throw a little light in here too. Now, sometimes until you get things to a certain place, they just don't make sense. So, and it really isn't making sense yet. I'm going to blend it a little bit and move on. And some of the biggest lessons that I'm learning is when to stop and when to move on. And this is one of them, because I could play with this for a while. You always have to have some sort of towel in your hand when you're blending like this, because you need to wipe your brush frequently. Otherwise, you just make a mess out of everything you're blending. You overblend. Okay. This time I remembered to put it back in the easel. All right, that's happy. Where am I going to go next? Well, you could do the logical thing, and logic doesn't always enter it when I'm painting. You could do the logical thing and start from the top, work your way down, left to right, that kind of thing. But I haven't done any red yet, and I'm really missing it. So, so that's what's going next. It's like we're heading for the pom-poms on the sock monkey because I haven't tried the red yet. So I'm moving the blue out of the way because we've just been doing cool things for too long here. Probably a whole 5-10 minutes. And we're going to the red. Cleaning my palette a little bit. All right, so I need to make the darker, and I'm gonna probably just hit all the pom-poms at once. Just get this red over with. I'm gonna make the dark red shade, and so I'm taking the quinacridone violet and the Perylene scarlet. Oh, that's nice. It's not. It's too red, and it's not what I'm looking for. But I love the color. Yeah, that's good. That's good if you're going to do bright red lipstick. Okay, I need to add Y green. I'm going to make the darker red, so I'm going to add green as a complement to this red to make the dark value color. That's gorgeous. It needs to be a little darker though. Okay. Might be too dark, but we'll try it and see what happens. I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller brush, but nothing I'm doing today is going to be real small, even on the detail. Okay, so where are the pom-poms? They're kind of all over the place. And I'm just going to go for the shadow side of each pom-pom. I'm going to treat this the same way I would hair or anything else of that of that nature. It's dark right here. Oh, it's really dark. Don't know if I want it that dark. Oof. Nah, that's just way too dark. So we'll add some more red. See, in the photo, it shows up a little darker than it is in real life. And since I'm not as good technically with the camera, I don't mess with it, I just do it on the canvas. Okay, that's better. There's just a little too much green in there, so I need to wipe my brush off. I'm not going to get a new one, I'm just going to wipe it off. That doesn't look any different. Okay. Well, at least it's only going to take me a couple tries before I make this. So I'm switching that over. I'm going to actually add a little more of the meaty reds to it. That's better. This is only going to be slightly different, but it'll be just warm enough that I'll be happy with it. Okay, so I'm just going to do this for the lighter ones. This dark over here. And I'm looking at blobs. When I'm looking at these pom-poms, I'm not looking at individual strands of hair. I'm looking at blobs of light and dark. And where do I see those? Do want to talk about his little, I'm going to change one of his pom-poms on his wrists and move that over a little bit to help the composition. But first of all, I need to just be consistent and go back to the reds. Okay, so it's the light source is from the right-hand side. It's going this way. So the shadow side is this way. So all the pom-poms are going to be a little shadowy on that side. And yeah, I pretty much drew them in, but you know, we're painting here. I'm not coloring, so I'm ignoring half of what I drew already. Okay. Bear with me. It doesn't make a lot of sense now, but it will. Okay, so we got a little pom-pom here. It's almost like lighter there and some dark there. How far does that go? He's got a lot of pom-poms going on right here. May have to change that later. That whole area is dark. I think I'm going to adjust this one that's, okay, there's one on his wrist that's right here. And that's just too much going on. So I'm actually going to adjust his pom-pom and we'll pretend it's here instead. There are things you just realize once you start painting that even when you sketch it in, it's like, nope, that's not going to work. So don't be afraid to change it. Okay. Oh, and he's got that little guy right. He's missing one. And sometimes I paint that in. You'll notice that on some of the paintings that he's symmetrical and has all his pom-poms. But sometimes he's missing. In real life, he really is missing one. Sometimes I leave it off. Okay, so we got the dark side of that, which is, look, they're just blobs. It's not like you did every strand of yarn. Okay, so let's just start with, I think what I'll do is put the lighter color in and throw them, or no, I'll do it in order. It's hard. Sometimes I want to be all over the place, but I'll actually do it in order. So the next one would be a medium color red. And I'm going straight into the color. Now, typically it would be nicer if I took the paint and used my knife and mixed it nice and made a nice separate pile there, but in reality, this is what I do. I start off making nice little mixes and nice little piles, and then toward the end, I'm all over the place. So I know what I'm supposed to do, and I don't always do it. All right, so here's a medium. Right in between there. Oh, that's nice. It's a medium dark. Still warm. That's kind of a shadow. Let's see what's going on here. And I will adjust as necessary as I put these in. It's like salting food, which I know you're not supposed to do that either, but hey, I like it. Oh, that's a nice start. Beautiful. Where else is it pretty red? This little guy, there's another one here. Pom-poms everywhere. Yeah, I just adjusted that slightly. I'm going to put in some light and then finish off the I'm going to put in some light and then finish off the details. I'm going straight into CAD red light. There are some people that say that you always should mix your colors. You should never use straight tube colors. But you know what? If a straight tube color is going to do the job, then use it. And I also do some mixing on the canvas so that it isn't necessarily straight when you put it on. And that's what's going to happen here. There are general rules, but if you can make it work, go for it. You don't have to do it. If I give you an idea how to paint something and you don't like it, then don't do it. This is all about having fun, being happy with it. I'm not going to mess with that one right now. I'll go on. And what's going on with this one? God, we may not even get to the deck this time. I don't know, we could. We could kind of go all over the place. Maybe we'll do his lips next, because that'll be a nice red thing, and it's like a Cheshire cat. Little smile he has. Okay, in the reference photo, it's not light where these two pom-poms meet, but it helps to give the separation, so I'm going to make it light right here and help give it some form. And I'll throw in some dark at the bottom. You can't really even see what that's doing. Okay. Now I'm going to step back and see they're starting to get some form. Right now they just look like big, really wild blobs. And so I'll do a little bit of blending. Okay, this is all light. So I'm going to blend just the light areas first. Right into the blue. Because I'm not committing to the edges yet. We can do these relationships, but I don't have to commit to the very end. So that means next session. And from the emails that I've been getting, it's like, yeah, that's great. I want to know how you get from here to there. So I'm not going to touch this one in between, and you'll see next show how we do get there. You notice I'm blending a lot. Now, since I moved this little pom-pom over, I'm going to have to add a little more duck than I had in there before, but that's okay. That's darker. Okay. I was tempted to just blend that all together, but I really need to add some more of the light red there, otherwise that doesn't make sense. Okay, now I'll blend just a little bit of the darker areas slightly, and I'm going to leave this alone. This will be a good first statement. I don't want to kill it the first time around. And also, I don't want to spend the whole time on these blob pom-poms, which aren't going to make sense to you till I get the whole thing painted anyway. And the one thing that I hear a lot in the emails is that, it does need to make sense. I really appreciate the great feedback that I've been getting. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is move over to the mouth of the sock monkey. And God, I'm just going to go ahead and draw in this smile. Normally I wouldn't do the same color all the way around. Oh, this is great. He's happy. But I will change that and blend that so that it's not the same color everywhere. And on the left side of him, it's got to be darker red. These lips have to be dark on one side and light on the other to give him that form, to make this thing go round. And that's got too much of that, so I'm going to have to switch to a different brush. Boy, that paint is getting gummy. If you ever paint outside on a really hot day and you aren't in the shade, your paint will get really gummy. And that's kind of what's happening in here. Okay, so let's get these lips in. Now what I was trying to do is make his lips a little lighter, because I was compensating for what was wrong with the other side, but I really didn't need to do that. So what I needed to do, see, sometimes I fix things that aren't broken because I'm not paying attention to what is broken. So I'm going to make if I make his smile darker, then the surrounding areas are going to work, and that's what I needed. Okay, that's better. Okay, he's got a crooked little grin. And it's going to have to be lighter on this other side, so I'm going to wipe my brush again, go straight into the Cad Red light. Yeah, that's good. That's giving it form because it's warmer and lighter on this other side. When we go back in after it's dried, we can give it some more, but this is a good start. It's kind of like a Cheshire cat with no teeth. Just the pom-poms and his little lips, like that. Yep, that's good. Okay, what else is red? Where else do we have red? His little, as long as we've got this color out. Let's see, he's got a little tie here and this one, does he even have a tie there? No, that's completely broken. He's got a little bit one here. Let's see, maybe there. I'm guessing because I can't see. Now, how did I start painting a sock monkey? I mean, this is just kind of weird to begin with. How did I mean, this isn't the, oh, he looks just really wild without, you know, just amazing without the rest of his body. There was a competition, and somebody said the rules of the competition was that I had to paint a fish, and then it had to be a theme of somebody that you knew. So I went into Safeway. I'm looking at the fish, and I'm going, I don't think so. I mean, I don't want to smell this. I don't want to look at this. So I thought, well, you know, they didn't say what kind of fish it had to be. So I went and got goldfish crackers, and I laid the goldfish crackers out, and I got my sock monkey and put him next to the goldfish crackers. And it ended up, the sock monkey was my mother, so it ended up being, and the kazoo, that's how this whole thing got started. It ended up being a tribute to my mother, who was a music major with the kazoo, and she was very funny. And so that's how that whole thing started. And many people know that I've painted a lot of sock monkey paintings. And we'll bring them in next time and talk about them. But anyway, that's how this got started. And in case you haven't seen the show before, the reason he's in on every shoot is just so that I don't take myself so seriously, because that happens when you paint. Or at least to me it does. I don't know what happens to you guys. Okay, his little red eyes. You got to be careful with these, because if you paint them wrong, they look scary. Paint them right, they look happy. So I kind of tone them down from what I see. And and they're, you know what? That's the other thing, is they're slightly off. They weren't sewn together. You know, they don't have the same distance. You know, all kinds of stuff that gives him charm. Okay, so they're black buttons, and I think I need a little. Oh my God, I'm going to use a small brush. It's probably the smallest brush you've ever seen me use to draw his eyes. Now, I'm not using black, I'm using a blue. Black's too harsh for what we're doing here. Anybody out there? Email me if you've got a sock monkey at home. I'd like to know if you still have sock monkeys, and if you named them. And if so, what were their names? Okay, that's a good start on the eyes. I'm not going to put his eyelashes in because I have to dress the rest of his face first, and I'll have to paint the eyelashes over his face. So there's really no point in doing that. No, it's just a matter of deciding where to go next. Looking at her hair. I think what I'll do is go ahead and go with the ribbed part of his socks. I'm going to make a nice neutral brown. I need some white to do that on it, just to add interest with a little bit. He's pretty yellowed. He's been around. Okay. So we want this to have form too, and that's too dark. Definitely too dark. I'm going to add some straight white. That's better. It's still, I think, a little darker than it needs to be. I'm going to put that down on that side, and I'll fix it as I go. I did that old master of the Vermeer, and I had, every so often in my painting process, I have, thank God, I have great leaps in my skill. And so every so often I'll do an old master and really look at it, and I learned so much from painting an old master painting. And you'll notice some of the, and I noticed after that particular session that I went to a new level. And you'll notice that everything I do is going to be a little bit looser than previous paintings, and I've made a shift, and so that's what's happened. It's more painterly. It'd be sad if I made shifts in the bad direction. Oh. Okay, gotta go with a little bit lighter, a little bit warmer. That's always what I'm asking myself. Is it lighter or darker? Is it warmer or cooler? Bright or dull? Gotta add some of the little light part of that. And you'll notice I'm wiping my knife, I'm wiping my brush. I don't want that to be totally contaminated. I think most people, when they do a portrait of anything, start with the face first, the eyes, and so it's really kind of unusual that that may be one of the last things we do. In fact, we may not get to that today. Going to be interesting having this ghost of a sock monkey in my studio till the next session. It's going to be hard because I always want to work on it. I'll have to let him go. And this last little bit, as we near the end, I want to at least get his little ribs in, the ribbed part of his socks, and blend it. This poor little guy. I am listening to your feedback, so for those of you that wrote in and said you wanted a more sustained painting, what I'll be doing is periodically I'll be doing two-parters like this, and so you'll get to see the entire process, or a good part of it anyway, and then we'll do some quick wild paintings in between. Break it up a little. Okay, I'm going to blend that because we're getting down to the end of the show. That was a bad brush to use. Well, the brush wasn't bad. It was a poor choice on my part, actually. I hope that in your subject matter, you'll consider some objects that aren't necessarily traditional. I know one, Jeff over at University Art was telling me that one of his teachers would make them paint incredibly ugly things so that they wouldn't focus on the subject, they would just focus on what they were seeing. And you can make beautiful things out of not so pretty subjects. Okay, so I'm blending that. I don't have enough paint on here to worry about wiping my brush. Starting to get the feel of the ribbed part of his little sock legs. I'm blending with the form here, and then I'll go against it. And the biggest thing I need to do, since I'm going to let this dry in between and I'm not going to work on it, and even if I don't get that done by the end of our limited show, is that I will soften these edges everywhere where the paint meets. I'm less concerned with blending this stuff in the middle right now, since we're getting toward the end of the session. I'm going to blend everything where these paint meets the blank canvas, so that when we go back into it, it's not going to look pasted on. That's how some of those amateurish paintings really look bad, when they're just, looks like somebody glued something onto the canvas. And I do enjoy the photos that you're sending, and the and the ideas in the comments. So please keep continue with the emails. It's great. I love to get the feedback, and it's nice to hear from people too who haven't tried painting and said, God, I think I could do this. And you can. Go out there, get the supplies, and have at it. Just pick something you love and start painting. I love the sock monkey. Well, thanks again for watching Give Your Wall Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom, and next time we'll get the rest of the monkey done and the duck. And until then, I wish you inspiration. Thanks.